The dehumanizing effect of the word troll. Hey, it's Prince of Queens, and one thing that has come up numerous times in my videos is the way that people who follow the fourth wave intersectional feminist social justice ideology tend to carelessly throw around the word troll to describe basically anybody who ever disagrees with them on the internet. Really, it's gone even further than the internet, thanks to people like Milo Yiannopoulos actually calling himself a troll. People now are starting to label actual people as entirely a troll, as opposed to simple anonymous avatars on Twitter. My YouTube channel has actually been called a troll channel recently, which is pretty funny if you actually watch my content because I am not particularly provocative, and I'm generally completely sincere with my content, so it's weird that people would say that about me. Just in case anybody is unclear, the word troll has been floating around since the 90s in reference to the internet, and while there's definitely some debate about what it is, it's mainly used to describe somebody fucking with somebody or a whole group online just to get a rise out of them, and not actually being committed to what the troll is actually saying. They're doing it for the sole purpose of getting a rise out of them, usually without even being sincere about what they are saying. For example, when people send rape threats to unattractive feminists like Big Red on the internet, that's obviously trolling, not just because she's not good looking, but also because rapists don't send warnings before they rape people. I'm pretty sure that's never happened once. Still, if you are a conservative, a libertarian, a centrist, a classical liberal, or even just somebody who believes in free speech and you have been arguing on the internet recently, you've probably been accused of being a troll, maybe even by your own friends, which has happened to me on Facebook. My own friends have called me a troll. It's pretty weird. What I think this is really the sign of is a widespread social purification of a cult mentality. Labeling everybody who doesn't conform to the ideology as a troll is in-group signaling and serves to oust and even dehumanize somebody who shows outwardly that they will not preach the acceptable narrative. SJWs have written entire articles dehumanizing people who disagree with them by claiming that they are trolls. And what is more dehumanizing than labeling somebody as a mythical creature that lives under bridges that might eat you if you get too close? I mean, they might as well be calling you a Jap or a witch or something. But this is nothing new. When I used to hang out in the West Coast hippie raver Burning Man type scene last decade, things were very similar. I'm not sure if you guys ever hung around Burning Man type people, but they can get kind of cult-like themselves, even today. But it was majorly wacky last decade. Like, it was basically every bit as cult-like as the social justice warriors are today. The Burning Man Festival was treated like a new religion, and they still have something like 10 principles of Burning Man. Things like leave no trace, where you are supposed to clean up after yourself, and radical self-reliance, where you are supposed to be well prepared. It's rather like having 10 commandments. Still, last decade, it got even creepier with the Burning Man people because the seeming vast majority of people who attended the Burning Man Festival every year, and remember, those types of people have entire social spheres that revolve year-round around the fact that they go to Burning Man, those types of people last decade also almost unanimously believed that the world was going to end in 2012. Long story short, there was a bunch of people who would spend thousands and thousands of dollars every year partying at Burning Man, because Burning Man is fucking expensive as you have to bring basically everything yourself, and the participants actually build almost everything that is there, so they invest a lot of money in going there. These Burning Man people thought the world was gonna end in 2012, and so they were gonna make sure they partied hardy before the world ended. And if you don't think that there was any way that this was political, you'd be wrong, because part of thinking that the world was ending in 2012 also meant that politics and voting was unimportant, which most of them would gladly tell you. So, these relatively rich people who had enough time to build massive sculptures and spend all of their money on some drugged out festival in the desert were also proudly politically apathetic. It's sad to think about, really. I mean, just imagine all of the things these people could do in terms of campaigning and creating independent blogs about politics and stuff if they weren't blowing all of their money every year at Burning Man. After George W. Bush was reelected in 2004, I was pretty pissed off about it. So I began talking to a lot of these people about politics, most of these Burning Man people, on social media, thinking that they would share my frustration. But of course, they didn't really care, because they figured the world was gonna end in 2012 anyway. After months of trying to talk some sense into these people, I vowed to never go to Burning Man again, though I had only gone once anyway. And I would urge absolutely everybody else I knew not to go, because it really was just completely degenerative, apolitical in a time when people should have been engaged in politics as the Iraq War was just developing, and Burning Man seemed to brainwash people into forgetting about their personal agency because supposedly the world was going to end. But what happened as a result of me being very outspoken about all of this, and rightfully warning people that the world wasn't actually going to end in 2012? Well, of course, everybody said that I was just a troll. It didn't matter what I said, of course. I wasn't even a real person. I lived under a bridge, after all. Living in New York City at the time, and most Burning Man attendees being West Coast people, many people claimed that my entire existence was entirely fabricated. And since I was apparently pretty good at arguing my case, there were even conspiracy theories about who I actually was. I don't remember what they were, though. There were a number of ideas about people paying me to argue against their sacred festival. It was infuriating for me, of course, and even several people who I thought were my friends ended up turning against me. "I don't know what's wrong with him. He didn't used to be like this," they said. Not because I was supposed to be some sort of evil bigot like SJWs claim now, but simply because I was questioning the point of Burning Man culture. More importantly, it was fucked up that they treated me that way because all I was doing was telling the truth. That the world was not gonna end in 2012, and eventually these people would regret not planning for their future in any way, in favor of wasting all of their time and money partying in the desert and preparing to party in the desert. Eventually, I dissociated from the Burning Man scene entirely, and for a while wouldn't talk to anybody who was into going to Burning Man, similar to how I won't really talk to SJWs now, unless, of course, to argue with them. Both mentalities are ideologies that completely control people's worldviews if it gets bad enough. And if people weren't aware of the evils of that type of groupthink and showed any sign that they might fall into the trap of letting themselves be controlled by what is essentially a wide-reaching cult, I was going to try to explain things to them whether they liked it or not. But of course, the leaders of both Burning Man and fourth wave intersectional feminist social justice culture can't have people deprogramming their little cult members. And they will just dehumanize individuals and call anybody who doesn't swallow their Kool-Aid trolls. Lindy West did it when she quit Twitter, and Amy Schumer did it when nobody liked her comedy special. In the end, of course, these people always lose. But it's amazing what lengths they are willing to go to before they fucking bite the dust, so to say. in Burning Man language. That's all I have to say for this video. Drop me a comment, help me out on Patreon if you want more from me, and stay tuned.